What if happiness isn't the opposite of unhappiness? What if they're actually processed by different systems in the brain? That may sound surprising, but understanding that distinction can completely change how we think about happiness, because becoming less unhappy is not necessarily the same thing as becoming happy. I'm Robert Needleman, molecular biologist and biochemist. Welcome to Empower My DNA. Let's start with a simple question. If you remove anxiety, stress, frustration, and worry, have you automatically created happiness? Most of us would probably say yes, but the science suggests the answer may be no. Removing pain does not automatically create joy. Reducing suffering matters, but happiness requires building something positive in addition to removing what's negative. The reason this idea is so intriguing comes from the brain. Neuroscientists have found that happiness and unhappiness are not simply opposites. Unhappiness isn't the absence of happiness. Instead, positive and negative emotions appear to involve different networks in the brain. Negative emotions such as fear, anxiety, and emotional pain rely heavily on ancient survival circuits in the brain. Many of these circuits involve parts of the limbic system, including the amygdala, which helps detect threats and coordinate stress responses throughout the body. Researchers have also observed that the right side of the prefrontal cortex tends to become more active during states of vigilance, caution, and emotional withdrawal. In fact, our brains were not designed to make us happy. They were designed to keep us alive. And for most of human history, survival came first. These protective systems are incredibly important. They help us recognize danger, avoid harm, and learn from painful experiences. But when these circuits remain activated for long periods of time, they can contribute to anxiety, heightened levels of stress, and emotional suffering. This is one of the reasons why poor sleep, social isolation, poor nutrition, physical inactivity, and chronic stress can have such significant effects on how we feel. Many of the things we do to become less unhappy are actually helping calm these stress-related systems. Sleep, exercise, stress management, social connection, time in nature, nutritious whole foods. These practices help reduce the biological burden carried by the brain and body. But happiness appears to involve more than simply turning those systems off. Positive emotional states involve additional networks associated with meaning, purpose, connection, fulfillment, and reward. Researchers have even found that greater activity in parts of the left prefrontal cortex is often associated with positive emotional states and engagement with life. In simple terms, the brain systems that help us survive are not the same systems that help us flourish. In fact, some of these differences can even be seen between the brain's left and right hemispheres. Think of it this way. Reducing unhappiness is often about removing obstacles. Building happiness is often about creating something. Meaningful relationships, growth, service, gratitude. Researchers have suggested that happiness involves several important elements. One is enjoyment, not just pleasure, but savoring experiences and sharing them with others. Another is satisfaction, the fulfillment that comes from working towards something meaningful and achieving it through effort. And perhaps most important is meaning. Meaning is the sense that our lives matter and that we are connected to something larger than ourselves. It provides a why that can help sustain us through life's inevitable challenges. These don't simply reduce suffering, they help us move beyond survival. And there's another important point. The goal isn't to be happy all the time. In fact, constant happiness isn't neurologically realistic, and it probably wouldn't even be healthy. Negative emotions serve important purposes. Sadness can help us process loss. Fear can help protect us. Frustration can motivate change. A meaningful life still includes disappointment, grief, stress, uncertainty, and struggle. The goal isn't to eliminate every negative emotion. The goal is to build a life where positive emotions, purpose, connection, and meaning have more room to grow. And because these systems are not simply opposites, something remarkable becomes possible. You can experience happiness and unhappiness at the same time. You can feel grief and gratitude, stress and purpose, fear and hope. Meaning doesn't eliminate suffering. It helps us navigate through it. In other words, happiness isn't about never feeling bad. It's about flourishing while embracing the full range of human experience. Maybe happiness isn't a destination. Maybe it's a direction we intentionally move toward through our habits and choices. And this is where things become especially fascinating. Our emotional experiences don't stay locked inside our heads. They influence biology throughout our body. Different emotional states create different patterns of hormones, neurotransmitters, inflammation, and other chemical signals. How we perceive and respond to our experiences can influence those signals. The biochemistry in the body associated with chronic stress is very different from the biochemistry associated with positive relationships, purpose, connection, and meaningful engagement. And the biochemistry we create influences the way our genes are expressed. We're not changing our DNA, but we are influencing many of the signals that help regulate how our genes are expressed. That's one of the reasons epigenetics is so powerful. The experiences we create and cultivate become our biology. And you may be wondering, what about genetics? Researchers believe genetics can influence part of our natural tendency toward happiness, but genetics is not destiny. More than 50% of our happiness is determined by how we live. Our experiences, relationships, habits, environment, and daily choices continue to shape those biological signals moving through our brains and bodies throughout our lives. That's one of the most empowering lessons of epigenetics. We may not control every factor that influences our happiness, but we often have far more influence than we realize. What I find empowering about this idea is that it gives us two opportunities to improve our lives. We can work to reduce unhappiness, and we can intentionally build happiness. And as we're learning, they are not the same thing. Both matter, and both influence the signals moving throughout our brains and bodies every day. Happiness isn't simply the absence of unhappiness. Happiness is something we actively cultivate. The more we understand how our experiences influence our minds, our genes, and our biology, the more empowered we become. I appreciate your time today. We have a lot more life-changing epigenetics topics to explore together.